So in the Noble Eightfold Path, the first one, of course, is right view. We must have right view. What is the difference between view and thinking? View is something that you have already made up your mind and you believe in, and that's called a view, right? Thinking is more flexible. Thinking is coming, going. But view is something more stuck, so it is called view. Now, if it is something more stuck, and you have wrong views, it is stuck. It influences the thinking, and thinking becomes wrong. And so, when thinking becomes wrong, action becomes wrong, and therefore brings a lot of suffering. So today, we come to the second part of the Noble Eightfold Path, which is Sila, morality, right view, right thinking, then right action, and right action is the part where it purifies our morals. There are two kinds of purification, morals purification and views purification. We say mental purity and physical purity. Physical purities are the precepts, Sila, the precepts that we keep, the abstinence of wrongful action or unwholesome action. So it purifies our action. So we do not harm others by what we do, we say. So in that way, we become purified in action. And purify in mind means that we overcome the defilements of the mind. And in the path of purification, here the scripture says, "There anyone a limit place on benefits that virtue bring, without which virtue clansmen find no footing in the dispensation." It means that there is no limit to the Sila, no limits to the purity that we can practice, right? Until we reach 100% our morals. So the benefits of virtue brings. So in other words, he says that there are a lot of benefits if we practice virtue, Sila. From right thinking, then we keep our precepts, not by force. Therefore, we keep precept by way of Ramani. I undertake the precepts on my own, not by force, not by commandment, but by right view and right thinking, we keep precepts. Right? So people say, I do not want to be a Buddhist because I do not need to keep precept if I'm not a Buddhist. But it is not so. If he's not a Buddhist, if he doesn't keep precepts, he breaks the precept, he kill, he steal, he lie, he sexual misconduct and intoxicant, he landed himself into a lot of suffering. So whether you're a Buddhist or not a Buddhist, the precepts are the basic morality which make us humans. Humans keep precepts. Animals cannot keep precepts. Right? And the benefits of virtues are great, very great, without which clansmen means, in other words, clansmen means that in this sense, there's no footing in the dispensation. If you don't have Sila as a foundation, then you can't practice the Dhamma. You can't meditate. If your precepts is not strong, when you sit down, you have a lot of mental disturbances. No Janjis and no Yamunas, no Sarabu and Sarasati, or flowing Achiravati, or noble river of Mahi, is able to wash out the stain in things that breathe here in the world, for only virtues of water can't. Only virtues water can, because water cannot wash away unwholesomeness. Buddha says that no water can do that, but virtue can. When we keep precepts, we wash away the defilements in our mind. We replace the defilements in our mind with precepts. And only precept can purify our mind, not water. The body is clean if you wash it constantly. But your mind, you can't wash it with water. Only with Sila, with precepts, morality, can you wash your mind, makes your mind clean. No breeze that could bring rain, no palms or yellow sandalwood, no necklace besides or gems, or soft effulgence of moonbeam can there avail to calm and soothe man's fever in this world, where else this noble, this supremely cool, well-guarded virtue quells the flame. So again, the defilements, defilements cannot bring calm and peace to the mind. Only virtues can. Right? Virtue can give us a lot of peace and calm. Now, if we keep the precepts, and we know that we do not break the precepts, our precepts are strong, we have no fear. Even of dying, we have no fear. At night when we sleep, we have no fear, because we know that precepts, when we have precepts, the mind is free of fear. Now there is this one thing I can vouch for it. When I was a monk, when I wear the robe, there was totally no fear in my mind. Even if I go to the graveyard, I stay alone in the hut, far away from anybody, I stay in the cave, there's no fear arising in my mind. And it arose in my mind, how wonderful is the robe. The robe is a great protection. How wonderful is the robe. And my mind keep going again and again on this robe that I wore, that I have no fear. But the fact is, it is not the robe that I wore that produced no fear, but it is the Sila that I keep wearing the robe. And the robe reminds me of my Sila. Whenever I do anything, I remember I'm wearing the robe. And that makes my Sila strong, keeps my morals strong. And when morals is strong, mind is free from fear. It is very peaceful, it's free from fear. Alone in the darkness, there is no fear. Even stay in the forest alone, there is no fear arising in my mind. And I thought it was the power of the robe, because some monks told me that the robe has power. When you wear it, there is no fear. And I found out it wasn't the robe, it was the morals. It was the precept that I kept very strong in my mind that give rise to a lot of peace and a mind that is free from fear. Well-guarded virtue quells the flame. Where is there to be found the scent? Well-guarded virtue quells the flame. The flame, of course, if you have virtues, then you do not have so much unwholesomeness in the mind. Where is there to be found the sense, the smell, that can be virtues, that can with virtues, sense, compare, and that is born against the wind, as easily as with it, where can such another stairs be found, that climbs as virtue does to heavenly door. Now, perfume cannot go against the wind. If you wear perfume, if the perfume will blows north, then only the direction of north can smell the perfume. But the virtue is without direction, is spread. Like the Buddha's virtue, spread all over the world, and even to the heavens, heavenly worlds, and to the Petas world, and even to the demons world. The Buddha's virtues. It can go against the wind. And where can there be found a staircase higher than virtues? Because virtues is the protection. If one has virtues, then one is sure of the Deva world. That's what the Buddha says. The way to heaven is by way of the precepts. They are sure of the heavenly world. You would never fall. Just as the branches, when it is broken, what action do the birds do? Then the Buddha says, the bird flies to another branch. And why is the bird flying to another branch? Because of virtues. It's like virtues has wings. It will not fall. And those without virtue is probably like a coconut. When the time comes, it just drops. It just falls. It cannot go to another tree. It just dropped. Now there is this story, very interesting about this story, about this lady, and he was crying because the husband passed away, and he heard that the Buddha was nearby, and so she went, approached the Buddha and cried and knelt down and asked the Buddha for help to save. If the husband were to be born in the lower world, O Lord Buddha, with your compassion, please save my loved ones. That was the husband. And so the Buddha says, all right, you follow me. And she was very happy. She thought that the Buddha was going to do some rituals. That's what they do, rites and rituals during Buddha's time. Everything, marriage, they perform rites and rituals, and death, they perform rites and rituals. Birthday, they perform rites and rituals, whatever. They will get some holy men and perform rites and rituals. So she was very happy that now the Buddha is going to perform rites and rituals so that the husband, if were to be born in the lower world, can be saved. So she happily followed behind the Buddha, and the Buddha take a piece of wood and he threw it into the pond, and the wood was floating. And he took a stone, a heavier object, and again throw into the pond, and it sank. And the Buddha asked the lady, now I throw this stone, is it floating or sinking? And the lady say, of course, the stone is heavy, it sink. Now I throw this wood, is it sinking or floating? And the lady say, of course, the wood is light, and therefore it is floating. And the Buddha say, could you make the wood sink and the stone float? And the lady say, how could that be possible? Because the stone is supposed to sink. The wood is supposed to float. So how could it be possible to exchange one to the other? Even so, the Buddha says, even so, those who have passed away is like this wood and the stone. Those with the Sila will float. Those like the stone will sink. Now it is this phenomena that the karma that we have done will take us where we deserve to be. Not even the Buddha can save us. So therefore, Sila is important to the Buddhists, to make sure that we continue to practice, even as devas or reborn as human, we practice the Dhamma until salvation, until we attain enlightenment. But once you fall down to the lower world, it is very, very difficult to practice the Dhamma or the Noble Eightfold Path. Petas. They asked me this question, Brother James, the Petas, they suffer so much. Can't they see suffering? And can't they practice? Because they have seen so much suffering. So therefore, they ought to practice and be delivered from the suffering. So I say, it is not so easy. When a person is in deep suffering, he forgets the Dhamma. When a person is hungry, he cannot hear Dhamma. He thinks of food. Just as when a person is very poor, he cannot sit still and meditate. He thinks of money. And so therefore, the Petas, those in the lower world, who continue to suffer mental torture and physical torture, they would not be able to follow the Dhamma. Right? And so are the animals. They are born with great ignorance, so they could not understand nor follow. So then, that climbs as virtue does to heavenly door, or yet other door that gives unto the city of Nibbana. Because only when Sila is established, then can we establish the purity of the mind. And with the purity of the mind, achieve. And the purity of the views, one reach Nibbana. So Sila is the foundation, right? Is the foundation, is the stepping stone to the purity of the mind. Shine as they may, there are no kings adorned with jewelry and pearls. They shine as once a man restrained, adorned with virtues, ornament. Now once one has virtue, is better than wearing jewels and diamonds and whatever you have, because these are just ornament compared to one who wears the virtues, wears the Sila. Yeah? There's a big difference. Virtue entirely does away with dread of self-blame and the like. So, virtue, self-blame is remorse. Once we have virtue, we do not have remorse. If we do not do anything wrong, we do not hurt or harm people, we keep our precepts, then we will have no remorse. Remorse is when one does not bother about virtues, one does a lot of wrong thing in life, and passing away, one has a lot of fear and remorse. When he counts the many things that he has done which is not right, which is wrong. So therefore, virtue, if one practices virtue, one dies peacefully, so say the Buddha. If one has virtues, one dies in peace. One dies in peace. Their virtues too, the virtuous, give gladness always by its fame. From these brief scratch, it may be known how virtue brings reward, and how this root of all good qualities, robbed of its power, ever fault. When there is virtues, we do no wrong. We can do no wrong. If we keep precepts, we would not hurt nor harm another person. And that is through right views and right thinking, then we have virtues. By doing what is right, depending on what we think. Now the body action, of course, is how we think. If we think that virtue is useless, then one perform a lot of unwholesome actions. One kill, one steal, one lie, one have perform sexual misconduct, or taking drugs to enjoy oneself because of wrong view. Because one thinks that life is pleasure and not pain. So we should strive for pleasure all the time, regardlessly of what. So that wrong view brings wrong thinking, brings wrong action. So right view brings right thinking and right action. Now there's this whole book about virtues. There's a lot to talk about in virtues. There are how many types of virtues, and virtues that improve, virtues that decrease. There's so much about virtues. But we will just go to the Noble Eightfold Path and talk about right speech. Concerning right speech, right action, and right livelihood. Now we talk about right speech. What is right speech? Right view, right thinking give rise to right speech. Right speech are those speech that are kindness. When we speak with kindness. So that is right speech. If you speak with ill will, with anger, frustration, you speak with hatred, that is wrong speech, because it hurts, it harms, and even your loved ones as well. If you speak to them harshly, if you blame them all the time, criticize them, then it brings a lot of pain to the one you love. And the one that suffers first is yourself. Because whenever ill will arises in the mind, you are mentally burned, suffering due to defilements. That is one cause of suffering arises due to one's own defilements. One owns anger and hatred. One feels the burning. And then, when it becomes strong, it burns the one that is nearest you and to others as well. So right speech are speech of kindness, warming speech, gentle speech, gentle words, and of course the best speech of all is the healing speech, speech that heals. When people suffer, you say some nice word to them, and therefore they'll be free from their suffering. And of course, speaking Dhamma is very, very good. It is very right speech. Why is it so? Because when we speak the Dhamma, the Buddha Dhamma, the reality, then it destroys the ignorance of that person, makes that person see, perceive clearly, and able to walk the Noble Eightfold Path. So it is very, very good, very wholesome to share your experience, to share your knowledge of Buddhism, what the Buddha taught. Right? So, don't keep the knowledge to yourself, try to share to your loved ones, share it with your friends, and even to your colleagues and strangers. So, that is right speech, and of course, wrong speech. Now, abstain from wrong speech. And what is wrong speech? Wrong speech, of course, is the falsehood, lying, abstain from lying, abstain from backbiting, offensive, abusive language, frivolous talk. There are 4 types of wrong speech that we need to abstain from. Now, one is the abstaining, and one is the wholesome speech. Now, sometimes one can speak nicely, yet with bad intention. When we say, "Hey, you look so nice today," but inside your mind you say, "How horrible this fellow is dressing, no color sense." So one can say nicely and very soft and pleasant, but actually in the mind it is lying. It is lying. So therefore there is this abstinence to protect the right speech. So that is why the abstinence comes in this Noble Eightfold Path, to abstain. And once you abstain from unwholesome action, then you perform wholesome action. So there are twofold. One is having right speech, one is abstaining from wrong speech. So there are twofold. When you say telling the truth, but telling the truth means that you try to tell the truth without harming or hurting another person. You can't say, "I'm telling the truth. Why today you look so ugly?" So that is not the truth. That is hurting. Sometimes I hurt people like that. You say, "I'm very straightforward people. You don't get angry. I'm telling you the truth. Really the truth. You're a lousy person." You think that is the truth? No, that is mean to hurt, to harm. It's called harsh language. It is not the truth. It is like using the Buddha to read in the roadside there, to read people's life. Using the Buddha. Look, this is the Buddha, no joke, the greatest of all devas. So come and see. I tell you your luck. So it's something like that. Using the Buddha, using the truth to hide the harsh words, right? To hide the lying. So that is not correct. Now, when we talk about lying, so there is this condition of lying, right? To break the precepts, there are these conditions. Now, of course, a false word, something that is false, something that is not true, intention to lie, you must have intention to bluff that person, and the action by body or by words to deceive. And when that person believes what you say, then you fulfill the breaking of precepts of lying. Right? The precepts of lying. So, in this case, when we say we break the precepts, then the karma is more heavy than not breaking the precepts, the conditions. If you want to lie, if they don't believe you, then is that Do you break the precepts? Now you don't break the precept because nobody believes you. Sometimes you joke, They know you're joking, you're not telling the truth. And so you're not breaking the precepts, alright? So you're lying, but you don't break the precepts. But if you do that a lot of time, then people would not believe you anymore. They don't believe you anymore because they know that you're lying all the time. So these are the conditions of lying. And the question they always like to ask, what about white lies? So white lies is whether the white lies harm another person. If it does not harm another person, then it is still a lie. Only thing it is white. It does not harm another person. They take it as a joke. Alright? It's just a white lie. But white lies sometimes do harm another person. So that would be a more heavy karma. Alright? Now then, we come to the other one. So what is the consequences? The consequences is untrustworthiness. And then being subject to abusers. People scold you, people blame you that you are lying. People point finger at you. So that would be the resultant of lying, right? Again, what are the conditions for slandering? Namely, the person that are to be divided, the intention to separate them, or desire to endear oneself to another. So you slander that this person is no good. So that person becomes your good friend. And two of you against the other person. So that is the motive, to endear oneself to another. Then the effort and the communication. So that is the condition for the act of slandering. Alright? Slandering. Saying something bad about another person, whether it is true or not. And what is the consequences? Slandering is the dissolution of friendship without any sufficient cause. That means it's being despised. Once people know that that person slanders, then people avoid him because they will think that if he say a lot of bad things about others, he could also say a lot of bad things about me. So they avoid. So that is the consequences of slandering. Again, there is harsh speech. Now what constitutes harsh speech? Namely, a person to be abused, angry thoughts, and the actual abuse that becomes harsh speech. Right? Whether that person accept your abuse or not, still it is abuse. If you scream and shout and curse at the other person, it is called abuse. Even if the person is not affected, it is still breaking the precept. It is different from the other. The other lying that the other person accept, then only he breaks the precepts. Right? And last week there was this question. But if there intention to kill, but I have not killed, so do I perform karma? Of course, I say you perform karma. Mental karma. Of course, there is resultant. Mental karma produce result. Even though there is no killing. But if there is actual killing, then you break the precepts, which is heavier. So the karma is heavy. You could be thrown in prison. People will take revenge on you. People will beat you up. So there are heavier karma. If you only kill in the mind, then it is mental karma. It still has resultant. Alright? It still has resultant. Then, intention. Now we come to the abstinent. Abstinent from killing, right? So, again there are these conditions to fulfill, for the evil of killing. There must be a living being. So they ask the question, bacteria. Is bacteria a living being? Is germs a living being? No, they are not. They are living things. Trees, is trees living being? No. Plant? No. So what is a living being? So say in the scriptures, a living being is able to walk, to run. A living being is able to think. Living beings have fear, have desire. So that qualifies a living being. So bacteria, just a function. Trees, just a function. So it's not a living being. So if you chop down a tree, you do not perform killing. But if you chop down the government tree, you could get fined for it. So no just chopping, right? You don't think that don't like the tree in front of a house, you chop it down. You could get fined for it because it belongs to the government. So if you are going to chop a tree, then as a Buddhist, you probably say something first. If there are any living beings staying in this tree, please move around or move to other places because I like to chop this tree. Because sometimes there are beings staying in the tree, especially big and old tree. Don't just chop it down, right? Say something first before you chop. So that is not just a belief, because in the scriptures it is said that most of the trees are occupied by beings, because there are unseen beings, thousands and thousands of unseen beings compared to one human. They are everywhere, and there are so many of them compared to humans. And my teacher say that even the grass that you step on, every grass you step on, there are beings staying in the grass. It is hard to believe. And I smiled and I heard that. I say, every grass. Imagine how many grass there on the floor that I step on every day. I'm stepping on the beings there. So they are minor beings. They are small. Asuras. Sometimes they are called asuras. They are earthbound beings. Unseen beings. They are small beings. So there are so many unseen beings all over the place. Living in trees, in forests, in rivers, and everywhere. So don't be scared of them. Don't be scared of them, right? It is their karma that they are born that way. So don't be scared of them. If you don't believe, it is quite alright. Because you can't see it. So, a living being, knowledge that it is a living being. So you must know that it's a living being, right? Intention of killing, effort to kill, and consequent death of the being. So, intention to kill by way of mind, speech, body, action. Can mind kill? Yes. Those with psychic powers. The Buddha, this man who came to see the Buddha, and he says that only body constitute karma. The mind, when it's performed, but not go through the body, there is no karma. And the Buddha asked him the question, with mind, can you burn the whole forest? Can you burn the whole village with your mind? And the man say, yes, I can do that. He has psychic powers. He has developed such great psychic powers. Just by thinking, he can cause fire to burn the whole forest. And just the mind power, they can harm another person just by using mind. Now there's this lady in Australia, I think in Australia, and the mother was very sick, lying on the bed for many years. So she took care of the mother until one day she was very fed up. She was very fed up looking after the mother because her whole life is tied to the mother. And so she kept telling the mother to die. He said, why you suffer like that on the bed? Why don't you close your eye and go off? Good for you, good for everybody. And so she keep every day just sit there and talk to the mother. And why don't you let go? Why must you hold on? It's not alive, lying there, not alive. It's a lot of suffering. And finally, the mother died. So the neighbor used to hear her saying that all the time. Sometimes she get angry and speak very loud, shouted at the mother. And so they reported to the police and they catch hold of her, and in the court, do you know she was charged for murder? Do you know I never killed my mother? No, I never did anything. But by words. Words kill. By just saying, using words. Using words, the mother passed away. Don't know whether it is true or not, but it could have effect. I have this close relative, and I was so surprised when I went to see my relative. The son was complaining to me, quite loud. My uncle was there, lying down, cannot move, but the eye can still blink. And he was talking very loud. He said, if my father don't die first, then I will die first. I said, wow, why you say like that? Such type of words, so heavy. She said, because I can't afford. I can't afford to pay for the hospital bill. The daughter was rich, but the son was not rich. But the daughter forced the son to pay equally. And so the hospital was very expensive. The charges was very expensive. So he couldn't afford to pay. But he has to pay because the daughter insisted that everybody must pay a share. And he speak very loud. I said, oh, please, don't say that. Don't say that. If you want to say that, let's go outside the room. And of course, my uncle was there blinking. I was blinking, not dead yet. But after a few days, of course, he passed away. So, words kill. Even not the body, even the words kill. Even mind kill. So, when he breaks the precept, even by mind, intention to kill, and the action of the mind using mantra to kill, and the dead person. And so therefore, the fulfilling of the killing karma is very strong. Very strong, the mind is very strong. Karma is very bad. And what about compassionate killing? This is a question always asked. Compassion, there is no killing. So, ill will kills, but not compassion. Compassion is one thing, killing is another. Compassion always saves, never kills. And a person has compassion in the mind, he always saves. Like even a bird ran down by the car. He will take the bird back, he will try to look after the bird, feed the bird, try to clean the bird until the bird can recover and fly away. Sometimes the bird die, and that is compassion. But ill will kills. Compassion never kills. So there is no such thing as compassionate killing. There's no such thing. Compassion is one thing, killing is another. Alright? So, time's up. We'll continue with the other precepts next week. Alright?